Hello, welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. My name is Ayana Majorbe, and I am an actress, voiceover artist, mentor, and your host. This show is a bi-weekly conversation highlighting pivots and life lessons from the perspective of artists, those who work in and around the arts, and arts educators. For those listening who don't consider themselves artists, you can pivot too. Everyone possesses the ability to do so. You just have to be reminded sometimes. All of our life lessons have taught us to be better pivoters, and it is my goal to share these life lessons to guide and inspire others. Here is this week's episode. All right, y'all. So I'm so excited that today joining me is Mr. Leo Christopher Sheridan, who, by the way, happens to be an actor, creator, activist, and healthcare professional. Hey, Leo.
Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. It's so good to be here. Hi, Ayana.
Yes. Oh, y'all don't understand. I love Leo so much. And just to see his smile on the screen right now, like, I'm just happy. I'm so happy. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I am just like so enamored with everything that you're doing with this podcast. It's just been super amazing. And I'm so glad to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And you're welcome. You're welcome. So let's dive into a lot of things. Actually, before I do that. So I sometimes do this and sometimes don't, to be honest, like if I remember to do it. So I just remembered, so I'm going to do it with you.
Okay.
If I texted you right now to ask you how you were doing, how you were feeling, how's your energy, but you could only respond in emojis, what would you text me?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. It probably right now in this moment today would be the smiling emoji, but that has that bead of sweat
Yes.
coming down the top. Because I am good. I am pushing through, but there is a lot going on. But I am good. I am definitely good. But it is a lot of work out here. It's a lot of work. So that's definitely what I would send your way.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for that imaginary text. I love it. So we're just going to dive right into your pivots and life lessons. And y'all, Leo has had a lot of them. And, I met Leo on the audition circuit many moons ago. We're not going to disclose our ages right now.
We won't talk about it.
We won't talk about that. But many moons ago, we met. And so, Leo, take me back to basically how your career as an actor started and how you got to where you are now.
So as long as I can remember, I've been on stage. I went to, performing arts high school. I studied musical theater, in college, and was just super fortunate right out of college to get a really big national tour. And that was the Joseph National Tour with Troika. It was a really big deal at the time. It went everywhere, and that really was the springboard for everything that fell in line after. I was able to work and learn from amazing, amazing professionals that had been in the industry for a long time and just really make some awesome connections that kept me working in New York, predominantly as an actor for a good chunk of time. It's funny because and I'm sure a lot of actors say this, it blurs together,
Yes.
after a while. And I actually had to remember where you and I initially met, because we did come together in the audition circuit.
Yeah.
Because it was a little different back then. It was a little different. We had to wake up early. We had to line up in the cold. The kids now, it's a little different. But we eventually ended up doing Hairspray together.
We did, yes, but we met before that.
We met very much before that.
Yes.
But it was so interesting, kind of full circle, how you would meet, especially, us Black and brown kids, because there weren't that many of us back then. You would meet all these people, have an amazing time auditioning with them, going to grab food with them after that stressful dance call. But to be able to actually work in a contract together
Yes.
that was rare, like it was rare, but it was such a good feeling. And, that's predominantly what I remember us, meeting.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, all that to say, I've been in the industry a long time. I don't like to harp on, Broadway shows or tours or regional, because for me, it's all the same. You putting in that work, waking up early, doing those 8 shows a week, it is a grind. So
Hmm.
since I don't want to give too many dates, but honestly, since 2000 and I would say 6, up till now, I have been, a blessed and working performing artist.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. But yeah, it's like you said, a blessed and working performing artist. And that
Hmm.
is something to, hold dearly
Hmm.
because there's a lot of people. What do they say? It's like if you make it over like your first 3 years,
Yeah.
something like that, you're like, yeah, you're in it. You're
Yeah,
working
you're
it.
in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it took a long time for me to realize that half the battle is the auditioning,
Oh,
like
yes.
we're some of my strongest relationships came from auditioning. Um, and that, was really what I take away from a lot of, forget the shows. The shows are great, getting paid is great, but I learned so much from you and all the other like Black and brown artists that I got to be in the room with, dance alongside, sing alongside. Those are really the memories that I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. It's that. Yes. Those are the memories. And that's what I miss. Like, I will say that in this
Hmm.
time, I don't necessarily miss the grind of auditioning. I miss
Hmm.
the community and the
Hmm.
camaraderie of auditioning.
Exactly. Exactly. That's such a key word, community, especially amongst people of color, because
Yes.
we banded together. There weren't but a handful of shows that we really aligned with back then.
Yes.
And you would see everyone at the Color Purple calls. You would see
Yes.
everyone at the at the Hairspray calls.
Yes.
Shout out to Bob Klein because he would call all of us in,
All of us, okay?
for those dance calls. And it was just so much fun being Black and
Mm,
being in those dance rooms, like sweating, like whether you
yeah.
got the job or not. Like, obviously, we wanted the job, but it was such a different energy. And I do miss that community. I really do.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I agree
Hmm.
that energy, like you said, you knew, oh, it's a Color Purple call. I'm gonna see everybody. I'm gonna see Leo today.
Everyone.
I'm gonna see that person today. I'm gonna see everybody today.
Right.
Oh, what you doing after the dance call? Let's go grab some food. Like you just
Right.
knew it was gonna be a day.
Right. And there was, what I loved about it too? There was no shadiness.
No.
If you needed help with the combination, we were in a corner trying to get it together for you.
Yes.
If you needed help with, your 16 bars, we were in the corner. Hey, no, sing this, girl. You sound great when you sing this.
Mhm.
Um, there really wasn't this shady kind of stereotype that I think showbiz gets a lot of,
Yes.
especially within, the brown and Black like kids auditioning. Like we really
Yeah.
were one unit, and I appreciated that and I loved that. I love seeing everyone's faces. It kept you motivated. It kept you inspired. And when
Mhm.
one of us made it, we all made it, right? And like I said, I miss that. I miss that.
That's it. That's exactly it, Leo. Like when you win, I win.
Right.
That's how
Exactly.
that's how we rolled. That's how we
Exactly.
rolled. Yeah. So I know that, like you said, you've been performing for a while. So what was the what's the word I want to use? The event or the situation or the reasoning that you were like, yeah, I'm still a performer, but let me step away and do something else?
That's a really good question. So, a lot of things started to happen in my life that
Mhm.
I needed to kind of push pause on the dream and really take an adult hold of.
Mhm.
I had injuries, that I was neglecting that I really needed to take care of. I injured my shoulder. I
Mhm.
had a torn rotator cuff for probably
Okay.
2 whole contracts. And I
Oh,
was ignoring
wow.
it. Yeah, I was ignoring it because I wanted to work. I was tumbling across stages and kicking my face in pain, but I wanted to work.
Mm.
But not only that, there was a bit of debt that I wanted to be responsible with and pay down.
Mhm.
There was a sense of wanting an actual home,
Mm-hmm.
and not to be, bouncing around sublet to sublet,
Yeah.
sleeping on sofas in between contracts. So those were really kind of like the culmination of events where I was like, you know what, we really need to pivot
Mm-hmm.
and figure out a better way to do this, because getting into your late 20s and feeling that your foundation isn't as thick or strong as it should be
Mm-hmm.
was really scary. And I don't know about anyone else like listening, but I also had a mom that I had started to really need to take care of because she was a bit older.
Mm-hmm.
I had a family that I needed to become more involved in. Um, and the 8 shows a week and me being, in every state and country wasn't, helping with that. So I did. I pressed pause. I took myself back to DC permanently. I was still
Mm-hmm.
auditioning. I still had my agents in New York, so I would come up when I could. But I started doing theater in DC specifically, and I picked up a part-time job, and I was a visual merchant manager for a company called CB2, and I did their windows and their it was a furniture store, so I did like their windows and their floors, like making it look like little IKEA like homes, and
Yes.
that was fun. And they paid me all right, but then even still, I needed to do more, and so I decided to go back to school.
Okay.
And so I went back to school and got a master's in legal studies with a focus in healthcare because it
Okay.
was something else that I was passionate about. And it felt like I needed to use another part of my brain. And a lot
Mm.
of people don't know this. Most people that went to college kind of know this about me, but I actually was going to go straight into law school after undergrad because I was so nervous about being successful in the arts. And
Ah.
so I took the LSATs and you know did all of that because I thought that was going to be the path for me. But then
Yeah.
I booked that first tour and was like, oh, I guess I am kind of good at this. So
Right.
all that got put on hold. But
Mm.
yeah, I went back to school. I actually graduated, two Decembers ago, 2019, 2020, and got a job in healthcare. So now I'm a clinical community healthcare professional, and my specialty is sexually transmitted diseases. So I work within marginalized communities, specifically brown and black communities, and I do HIV and STI testing. I do outreach. I do linkage to care for people
Mhm.
that are homeless or need rehab, things like that. So it feels good to be sinking my teeth into something else that I've been
Mhm.
passionate about, but still auditioning and performing on the side. I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds right now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yes, that's great. The best of both worlds. Things that you're passionate about, you have your hands in both pots, if you will, that are on the fire.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And so I do wanna go back for a second to you being like a visual, merchandiser.
Hmm.
Or did you find that to be, like, fulfilling at all? Like, I know that is creative and, like, you get to decorate because I sit on HGTV, like, that's my channel. Like,
Yes.
that's when I turn on the TV, it's automatically on HGTV, and I'm like, "Ooh, what about that? Ooh, oh, no, I wouldn't have picked that color. Wait a minute, you could do" you know? So, with the visual merchandising, did you feel, as fulfilled as when you were on stage?
No.
Okay.
That's a hard no. Um,
Okay.
it also, I mean, it just wasn't what being on stage was,
Mhm.
but it definitely filled an artistic need at the time while
Okay.
I transitioned to figure some things out. It paid the bills.
Fair.
I happen to be very good at it, probably because, all artists kind of have this eccentric feeling and style. So people trusted me with their homes, and it was fun, but I definitely felt like there was another position I needed to kind of move forward into. But even with me being now in like healthcare, there's no better feeling than being on stage.
Mhm,
I'm good at
mhm,
this. I love the work that I do, especially helping out our people.
mhm.
But it's just not the same, you know? And
Yeah.
so because I'm not doing it full time, I definitely miss it. I
Yeah.
definitely root for, all my friends and associates and old audition buddies that are still out there, grinding, booking.
Hmm.
It's hard to be away from it in this capacity. Like I said, I'm
Hmm.
still auditioning. I've gotten to do a couple of really cool projects over the last couple of years, but
Hmm.
yeah, I definitely miss it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Understood, understood. So now with that, and you mentioning actually the projects that you've done over the last couple years, I have
Mhm.
2 questions. So the first one is, just tell me a little bit about, I know you had made some, like, short films and a full-length feature film, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's
And so
correct.
tell me about that first, and then I'll get to my next question.
No, totally. So while I was visual merchandising away, there was still that need to fill that void for parts that, you know, weren't there for people of color, people with disabilities.
Mhm,
So my first short film, I wrote myself, directed myself, and kind of funded myself, and it was called Maybe Today, and it was an LGBT focused film. It was a story of a musician of color and a an individual who happens to be deaf,
mhm.
and they kind of go on this small journey of figuring out, how will this work?
Okay.
And it was amazing because I got to cast from Gallaudet University. If anyone knows what Gallaudet University is, it's like
Mhm,
the premier university for the deaf and deaf education here in Washington, D.C. They actually
mhm.
have a full, amazing acting program and just arts in general. And so I got to really harness some talent from there. I learned so much, and it was something we filmed over the course of about 2 weeks. I funded it myself, and it did play a couple of festivals.
Okay.
And I just learned a lot from the process, and it was super fulfilling just to be back on set with actors and actresses and be filling that void of people who aren't represented.
Mhm.
Um, from that, I got inspired again, and I partnered with a really good friend, Donovan Trott. Shout out to Donovan. Um, we wrote a film about the racism that happens within the LGBT dating community, and we called it No Chocolate, No Rice.
Mhm.
For anyone that doesn't know, on apps like Tinder and Grindr and things like that, when people reference race, well, rather races that they don't necessarily want to involve themselves with, they'll say, no chocolate, meaning no black people, or no rice,
Mm.
no Asian people.
Okay.
Or they'll say something like, yes to spice, no rice. So spice being Latins, no rice being no Asians. So very
Okay.
derogatory, very inappropriate. And we wanted to pick up on this and, kind of bring it to light. So he wrote the script. I kind of assisted, and then I directed. We did a great crowdfunding campaign,
Mhm.
which brought a nice chunk of money our way, and we were able to cast a great diverse group of people and film it in Washington, D.C. over the course of like a month.
Okay.
That was able to play some festivals, and we had some amazing like Q&A sessions where we really got to dive into this topic of preference versus racism, in dating.
Mhm.
And it doesn't necessarily just happen in the LGBT community, but it happens in the heterosexual community as well.
Mhm.
Constantly we hear preferences for dating, black women versus white women versus Asian women, all of these things
Uh-huh.
being problematic.
Yeah.
So kind of the activist in me wanted to bring that to light, and that was a great project, and it got a lot of dialogue going, and that was
Mhm.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to highlight those because you had written those in your questions, your pre-interview questions. And I was
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I want him to talk about this. Yes. So my second question was going to be,
Mhm,
you have pivoted a lot, and a lot of it is voluntary because you're like, oh, I want to be around my family, or I want
mhm,
to pay off this debt, or I want to build a little bit more of a foundation for myself. But
mhm.
within these pivots, or even like to say new iterations of yourself, what lessons have you learned or are still learning and kind of carrying with you into each, you know, new iteration?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. They're honestly like the biggest lesson that I've learned from all of this is um, being prepared
Okay.
is probably the best foundational lesson that I've learned from all of this because um, when you go into kind of these battles blindly, whether it be the arts, whether it be, you know, going back to get a second degree, partaking in your own artistic project, like doing the research and being prepared can save you a lot of sorrow and heartbreak, and really will allow you to put your best foot forward.
Hmm.
And anyone who knows me knows I over prepare, and
Hmm.
still there were issues that I kind of came across as I pivoted, as I transitioned amongst all these kind of different avenues
Yeah.
where I just like, I was not ready, right? I was like, oh my God,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
like, what is going on? I just really had to be prepared. I'm a homeowner, you know, I'm in a long-standing relationship. I'm a, you know, a caregiver for my mom. There are a lot of um, kind of levels to all the things that I've moved into.
Hmm.
And just honestly reading and being prepared and asking questions and not being afraid to have that little bit of failure, but being able to get back up and try again, just being prepared. Yeah, that's probably been the biggest lesson of, you know, out of all of this.
Hmm.
Um, the
Hmm.
second one is probably just having whatever makes you happy be a constant in your life. So if you are going to pivot, if you are going to change things so that you can be a better person and move in a better manner in this world, still holding on in some facet to that thing that makes you happy.
Hmm.
You know, whether
Hmm.
it's continuing vocal lessons or still going to those dance classes or just patronizing the arts. Um, that's important, you know, so that you're still connected. Um, and it might make you feel sad or uneasy because you're not a part of it, you know, 100% of the time. But at least you're still connected and at least you're still giving back to that energy that, you know, really lifted you up for however many years you were involved in it, you know? So
Yeah.
holding on to that is really important.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that, Leo, giving back to the energy that, like, upheld you and pushed you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Because I do think that, you know, as performers and I'm going to make the assumption that other people feel the same way in their other careers. Like, if you
Hmm.
are no longer a doctor or an engineer or whatever you may be, you're like, "Oh, wait, I'm no longer a part of that." Like, you do kind of feel a little sadness or a little like, "Oh, wait, I wanna
Yeah.
be back in what I was doing." But fortunately with the arts, we can go patronize the arts. We
Yes.
can go to
Yes.
a show even if we're not in a show. You can
Yes.
go and go, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'm gonna give all my energy to everybody who's on stage." Or, "I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch this I'm gonna go buy a ticket to this movie because, like, I gotta support it."
Exactly. And I also just feel like there are so many different ways to patronize the arts. It doesn't necessarily mean that you physically have to be in a theater seat.
Mhm.
You know, if you are seeing that, you know, a local high school needs money, you
Yeah.
know, to build a set so that they can experience that, you know, give that way. If you are seeing that those old plays on your bookshelf, you know, aren't you're not going to reread those. Do you have any use for them? Maybe donate them to your local library, you know, or a
Yeah.
shelter. You know,
Yeah.
there are so many ways that we can patronize the arts, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be in a seat. It doesn't always have to be, you know, monetary.
Mhm.
Um, you know, vouch for the arts. You know, if your neighborhood is planning to cut them from said school or close down said community theater or whatever the case may be, like use your privilege if you have it to vouch for those arts.
Yeah.
That's really important, and I don't think a lot of people view all the facets of the arts. They think, you know, ticket, seat, done. I've done my duty. Um, but no, there's so much more we can do. You can write letters to your local theaters. Hey, I saw that you did these productions. Thank you for bringing the arts, you know, to our community. But what I'd really like to see is these
Ah.
productions here so that we can involve more brown or black or actor disabled, people in the community. There's just so much that we can do to continue to uplift, not only this current artistic generation, but like those to come. And it doesn't always necessarily mean buying a ticket and being in a seat.
Exactly. You hit that right on the head. Yes. And actually you made me feel shame. I was like, "Ooh, I probably should donate my plays that are on my bookshelf because I am not gonna reread those." I was like,
I
"Ooh,
mean,
Leo just got me. Ooh, let me go donate those."
it's one, it's one of those things. It's there are so many just ways to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's so important to just keep it going. I know I would not be here and be the artist that I am today if it weren't for somebody else coming through, to my performing arts high school, to my elementary school, whatever have you, and donating or uplifting,
Mhm.
I think it's super important. I really do.
Mhm. Absolutely. I agree with you. I do agree with you. And on that note, what advice, what
Hmm.
nugget of wisdom would you have to give to others, whether they're in the arts or not, because everybody can pivot and everybody can change and everybody can have a new iteration, depending on what's best for them in the moment,
Hmm.
So what would be your nugget of wisdom?
My nugget of wisdom, I have so many nuggets of wisdom from
Give 'em
everything
give 'em
that
all of it. Give me all of
I've.
them.
My first nugget of wisdom is always to let the kids be kids and let the kids be in the arts, because for me that's super important. So if you are a parent and you have kids, or you see a parent that has kids and those kids look maybe a little lost, let those kids be in the arts. Let the boys take ballet, let the
Mhm.
girls, take karate, any
Yeah.
type of thing that gets them out and involved in
Yes.
the arts. Let them do it and let them tell you that they don't want to do it. Don't dictate,
Mhm.
what you see for them. Let them be their own artist, you
Mhm.
know? To those in the arts that are still pushing through and, waiting for their big break, create, and don't wait, really create your own, especially for all of us who are underrepresented. We've come a really long way, but there
Mhm.
is still so much that we can be doing. And unfortunately, we're going to have to be at the helm of that creating,
Yes.
we have so many friends now who are creating, their own paths for us,
Mhm.
as people of color in the arts. We have the Doug Lionses, we have the Robert Hartwells, and shout out to all of them. But there are so many more of us that have these stories that can be told. So create, as much as you can. It doesn't have to always make it to film. It doesn't always have to make it to stage. Even if it's just a reading in your basement with your close friends, create. Um,
Right.
and my last bit is probably just going to be, again, just patronizing the arts when you can, especially if it's a new show, a Black show, a Latin show, a disabled actor show. Go see those first, before you would, patronize another Oklahoma. It's like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
we've seen that. Like, just really, really be at the forefront of change, and use your platforms as much as you can in your own communities to vouch for those shows that aren't done.
Mhm.
Really bring them home to the suburbs, right? Like, really
Yes.
bring them home to to the communities that really need to see them. I think that's super important. Be
Yeah.
controversial, and just, I don't know, let it all hang out, in those communities, because that's what the arts is about, making people uncomfortable, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, yes. Oh, thank you so much, Leo. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was
Of course,
beautiful.
of course.
Yes, 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 yes. So before I let you go,
Mhm.
um, I would like to ask you, where can everybody find you if you would like to, share your social media handles?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Um, my Instagram is at Leo Sheridan. Pretty
Mhm.
easy. LeoSheridan. And then I'm on Facebook, Leo Christopher Sheridan. I do a lot of house stuff because I own a home and it's a lot of fun. And so you can find me doing renovations. I definitely advocate for the smaller man and woman to amplify their voices and make them heard. And I definitely show a lot of love to artists that are, pushing through with their own work. So totally follow me, share with me what you have. I would love to come out and support and see it. Yeah.
Yes. Great, great. And don't worry, if you didn't get that, I will put all of that in the show notes so you can get
Yes.
in contact with Leo. And then, my friend, before I let you go, I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
I love you so much, Ayana. It's been such a pleasure not only being on the show, but seeing how you've pivoted and seeing how you've moved forward in your artistic journey from whence we met till now. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And I can't wait to see where everything goes, in the next 5 to 10 years. Like, it's always a surprise. And it's just been great kind of being on your little corner here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Please feel free to visit this episode's show notes for links to get in touch with my guest, as well as a link to rate and review my podcast on Podchaser. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, all you have to do is scroll down to the rate and review section. You can find and connect with me on Instagram at The Artist Pivot to see audiograms, fun facts, and posts featuring my guests. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to get notified when a new episode is out. And please share this episode with at least one friend. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll speak to you soon.